One of the most interesting new Pokemon in VGC has been none other than Hydrapple. While this isn't exactly a meta staple by any means, I think it has a lot going for it, and it's a much needed improvement upon the recently added Dipplin due to its increased special attack and an incredible ability through the form of Regenerator. And today, I'm going to be showing off why Hydrapple might actually be a good threat in really hard Trick Room teams. If you want to see more videos like this, leave a like and subscribe for more. And with that said, let's break down quickly the team that we'll be using today. Starting off, of course, we do have none other than the star of today's video, Hydrapple. This Pokemon consists of an Assault Vest item, which should be allowing us to take special hits significantly better, as we already have a really strong physical defense stat, and with the special defense boost from the Assault Vest and Tera Fire, we can now turn into an incredible offensive threat that can take hits from Pokemon like Flutterman and Chi-Yu with very much ease. With our moveset of Giga Drain, Draco Meteor, Pollen Puff, and Earth Power, we hit a lot for really high damage, with Pollen Puff being a great support Pokemon for other options on our team, Earth Power being great for opposing fire types, and Giga Drain and Draco Meteor make a terrifying stab combination. I know a lot of people that use Hydrapple have typically leaned towards Fickle Beam due to the fact that it can deal more damage, but I like just the guarantee that we can get off a nice strong 130 attack, because Hydrapple could very well end up just trading in Trick Room scenarios, and I would much rather just guarantee I'm going to deal a lot of damage to Draco Meteor here. Moving on though, we do have Hatterene, which is going to be a really strong side spam option for this team. Hatterene got an incredible buff through Expanding Force this format, which means that an Expanding Force, Dazzling Gleam, Trick Room, and Protect moveset is now back on the table. I have Tera Fire on this as well, as it's nice into the Torkoal matchup, as it's one of the few Trick Room threats that actually does underpace Hatterene, and allowing us a really strong way to resist Torkoal's Fire Eruption with the Sun Boost should be very valuable in order to ensure that we can get off a really strong Expanding Force and KO the Torkoal back in return. While options like Tera Water are still fine, I just think that Tera Fire will match up slightly better in the off chance that we fight a Torkoal that might be running Solar Beam, as it is kind of niche. Moving on, we do have an Indeedee female with Tera Grass and Psychic Seed. The Psychic Seed plus Tera Grass combination is very scary, as with Psychic Seed we get a nice boost to our special defense in the Psychic Terrain, which Indeedee sets on its own anyway, and Tera Grass will allow us a great way in order to avoid stuff like Spore and Rage Powder from Amoonguss, which will help us greatly as a support Pokemon. With Follow Me, Dazzling Gleam, Trick Room, and Helping Hand, this is an incredible lead partner with Hatterene, and I found myself leading these two in particular 90% of games in order to open up for threats like Hydrapple in the late game. If for some reason Hydrapple isn't enough though, we do have a Charcoal Torkoal with Tera Fire in order to deal some strong damage with Tera Fire Sun Boosted Eruption, as it's the only threat that's actually able to underpace Hatterene. That way, if my opponent doesn't have a defensive Tera on their Hatterene, I can kill it before it takes advantage of my own Psychic Terrain, and with moves like Heat Wave and Earth Power, we can still deal damage even if we're not at full health. Next up, we have a bit of an interesting Pokemon with the Tera Ghost Ursaluna. Now, this popped up a little bit as a nice defensive way around Pokemon like Iron Hands that would otherwise revenge off Ursaluna with more defensive Teras such as Grass and Water, and with Headlong Rush, Facade, Protect, and Lick, this is a proven very strong offensive threat. With Lick especially, we get a really good way to hit Fluttermane pre-Tera without having to drop our defenses with Headlong Rush just to do so. And thanks to the Tera Ghost, we boost to a base 60 power move that with the now Stab from Tera Ghost goes up all the way to base 90. And it has a 30% chance to paralyze the opponent as well. Sounds like a pretty nice move in my opinion. Finally, we're going to be rocking out with a Splash Blade Arachnid. While this might seem a bit counterintuitive to the Sun mode that Torkoal is going to provide, it's actually a really good partner for Hydrapple. For one, we can take on any sort of opposing fire types that might be threatening Hydrapple, while Hydrapple is going to be great for handling opposing rock types that might otherwise threaten my Arachnid. With the Tera Water, with Liquidation and Water Bubble, this is one of the strongest water type offensive Pokemon in the game, and we have Leech Life as well as nice recovery for opposing grasses that might switch in on us. The big kicker though is with the move Soak, which is going to turn any Pokemon that hasn't Terra'd into a pure water type, allowing Hydrapple's Giga Drain to deal even more damage to them, proving that this does end up actually deserving a spot on the team in my opinion. The rental code is going to be on screen here in case you guys want to try it out yourselves, and with that said, let's get right into the battles today. Alright, and we're here for our first set of games in like almost a month. Holy shit, it's been like 3 weeks. We're taking on a team consisting of Dozagiri, Chi-Yu, oh my god, I was about to call it Hisuian Articuno. No, Galarian Articuno, or Shifu, probably single on this. Well, actually, it could be either on this team. I think it's Silly or single. And then Walking Wake. Definitely an interesting composition to say the least. In terms of my lead, I think I honestly just go with the side spam here. I could draw in our Shifu and just trade my Indeedee, which should be fine. And then Hatterene can take a hit from Chi-Yu, since I think that will be the lead if I had to guess. We are going to proceed to bring the Hydrapple in the back. It should be a decent Dozagiri check. And then I'm going to go with, I feel like Torkoal is probably the play. Though Ursaluna is not terrible here. And I mean, Arachnid's kind of just Arachnid. I think I'm going to go with Torkoal. I feel like Torkoal is the safer option here. Typically, the Hatterene has been a nice opener, though, in terms of most matchups, because even if they do lead with Dual Dark, I should still be fine, as it's just a nice way to hopefully break past my opponent and then go for another Pokemon in the back, because Indeedee will just go down and Hatterene will be very enabled, even if I'm just clicking Gleam. So, good luck and fun to my opponent. I'm hoping that they don't go with Dozogiri. Okay, they don't go with Dozogiri on me. Okay. That's fine, because Dozogiri could have been kind of a problem, specifically because they could have maybe went for something like an Earthquake, and then just like a couple Earthquakes have been bad, or even just, again, like wasting the double target on a Pokemon that's kind of more single target based could have been kind of bad. But we're doing good, we're doing good. Now, they might set up like a Sunny Day this turn on, no, they're just going to go with Photosynthesis with the Booster Energy. Special Attack, which is, honestly, it's a lot better to deal with. We're going to go for an Expanding Force here. And then I'm going to go for, actually, I'm going to go for a Trick Room first. Trick Room should be pretty decent overall. And then I'm going to go for a Follow Me here. We're going to let my opponent target into the Indeedee with what's most likely going to be a Hydro Steam and Tailwind, if I had to guess. They might go for Expanding Force of their own. I'm kind of fine with that. They might even go for Taunt. And again, letting Indeedee get taunted is still not a huge deal because it can still provide good support with Dazzling Gleam here even. So I'm not really too concerned if they do go for Taunt. I don't even know if Galarian Articuno gets it though, but I think it does. We'll find out now. Realistically, they're probably thinking some sort of support move on Articuno and then like a Hydro Steam. They're gonna go for Draco Meteor. Okay, that works too. Draco Meteor still doesn't really deal a lot of damage. It's a 3 KO on Indeedee despite their special attack boost, which is amazing for us. Meanwhile, I'm going to get out my Trick Room, which makes their Tailwind even worse here. And my Hatterene should be able to start just firing off some really incredible damage with Expanding Force in order to make sure that my opponent loses their Galarian Articuno, and we're kind of just set. The reason we're going for Expanding Force, by the way, actually, I can go for Dazzling Gleam. That'll do better into both Pokemon. I was going to say it should be hitting the Walking Wake higher, but that's actually not true. Technically, it might be ideal to just go for the... I was gonna say it might be ideal to go for like Expanding Force plus Dazzling Gleam in case of a Tera, but I don't really think they'll bring Tera on this Pokemon. So instead I'm gonna boost Hatterene's damage with Helping Hand plus Dazzling Gleam, as that should hit harder than even just a Dazzling Gleam from Indeedee plus the Dazzling Gleam without the Helping Hand boost, but we'll see. They've at least revealed they're not Sash, which, while it was pretty unlikely in Walking Wake, it does help with information planning, because we can now guarantee that we can just take this Pokemon out. Meanwhile, Galarian Articuno has now gotten so weakened that I could probably pick it off with a Helping Hand Expanding Force in the following turn. If they don't forfeit at this point, I'd be kind of shocked, but at the very least, we've gotten a strong opener with the Hatterene that I feel pretty confident in our following turns. They'll proceed to bring in the Urshifu Rapid here, which does mean that we just click Expanding Force plus the Helping Hand. My opponent can't really click anything because of the terrain being up, and they are going to proceed to forfeit. Perfect, on to game number 2. Okay, so getting into game number 2, we're taking on a team with Dual Intimidate, Grimmsnarl, Cresselia, Hitmonchan, which is kind of interesting, but I do fuck with it, and then Archaludon. I think that, again, despite my opponent having multiple Dark types, my lead is Psy Spam. Realistically, just stopping Incineroar or Fake Out, and it's the easiest way to trick them as well. There's not really a reason to ever go without Psy Spam in almost every matchup. The Hydrapple should be a decent option late game. Realistically, just the Giga Drain goes kind of hard into this team, and the one Pokemon it doesn't, I can just fire off a really strong Earth Power into anyway, so I'm kind of set there. I do think our last Pokemon does change, though. I'm not really huge on the Torkoal right now with the amount of checks, and I think that Ursaluna will actually be a much stronger option, despite the fact that my opponent has like the Archaludon and the Gyarados and the Incineroar. I still think that realistically Facade should be good into everything besides the Archaludon, which I can just get off Headlong Rush into anyway. Plus, Hydrapple will hopefully be able to muscle past that, thanks to the Earth Power that I can Helping Hand boost with Indeedee, or even just with the Gleam that I can go off into with most Pokemon on this team, thanks to my Hatterene. So it should be an interesting one. I'm expecting, honestly, probably like the top 3 plus Archaludon, or maybe even no Gyarados and instead Cresselia. If Hitmontop comes, I'd actually be really surprised. But it's probably mostly here for like upper hand matchups, or maybe for like their weird rock, paper, scissors game if they're going to go with that in doubles. But regardless though, good luck, have fun to my opponent. I'm looking forward to seeing what they lead off with. It's going to be Cresselia and Incineroar. Okay, definitely interesting, but I do get why they would lead that. I wonder if they're going to try and go for a Trick Room of their own to stop mine from going up. But either way, this should be pretty fine. No matter what Incineroar does, it's not really going to threaten my Hatterene. And Cresselia, honestly, I could maybe even just go for like a Helping Hand plus Dazzling Gleam this turn just to deal more damage to my opponent. Thankfully, they can't Magic Bounce on my Hatterene, which is good. So if they're going to go for it into anything, it has to be Indeedee. Though I guess they could, to be fair, go for a Magic Bounce to try and force me to pivot, which wouldn't be terrible, actually. That could be a decent play for them. Regardless though, I'm going to go for the Helping Hand here and just boost my Hatterene's damage. If they go for the Parting Shot play, then so be it. I don't really think it's a terrible option for me because it just means that their only offensive option this turn, if anything, is Cresselia. They're going to proceed to go for Parting Shot, and it is going to be an Indeedee. Honestly, this really isn't a huge deal because my Dazzling Gleam will hit everything that wants to come in. Incineroar was probably their Pokemon that took this hit the best because Hitmontop and Grimmsnarl take super effective from it. Gyarados is not going to take it as well as Incineroar because it's most likely not going to be Assault Vest or Speed F boosted. And then Archaludon, while it might have an Assault Vest, is just going to be weaker into the option overall. Its Special Bulk is just not that great in comparison to Incineroar's. They're going to proceed to bring in Grim. Okay, this works out perfectly fine. This Helping Hand Dazzling Gleam is going to hurt both of my opponent's Pokemon, and it does look like Cresselia went for Trick Room, which only helps me that much more because I didn't set it this turn. So I should be able to regain field position here, as my opponent has now given me the speed control that I was otherwise going to click because I bluffed that I was going to click it. So Hatterene is now in a position where, honestly, I should be able to just handily beat my opponent with very little effort on my end. They could potentially go for another Parting Shot here. I don't really think they're going to, but they technically can do it. We're just going to click Dazzling Gleam again, and we're going to click the Helping Hand. This Helping Hand is realistically just the only move I actually need to click right now, as even if my opponent does Parting Shot me out of my Hatterene, it will be after I've already dealt significant damage, and then really either my Pokemon can continue to break this game because they've already taken so much damage on Incineroar, and on top of that as well, even if their last one is Gyarados, now I know. They've knocked off my Life Orb, which this hurts a little bit, but at the very least, I should be able to now keep my Hatterene alive, which is something, and even without the boost in damage, I should be able to just deal enough to pick off Cresselia this turn. So we'll go for another Dazzling Gleam, and I'm going to go for another Helping Hand here. They should be able to hopefully kill Cresselia. Incineroar will definitely survive the hit, but I'm kind of okay with that, because the best thing it can do at this point is kill my Hat, which just means that I get a free switch into Hydrapple. So hopefully Hydrapple can finally get to touch the field. It's been several minutes at this point, and Hydrapple in our second game already is looking like it might not even come to the match, despite having been brought both times due to the fact that it's a good late game matchup. Incineroar is going to pop a berry here. This should be Citrus, which is pretty decent actually for it. It's now going to be substantially healthy, though thankfully it's going to go for a Flare Blitz actually. This will weaken a lot of that Incineroar's health. I think they were probably most likely trying to proc their Citrus in case if I change my moveset options, but that works out very fine for me. I mean, Incineroar is now just taking more recoil because of this. And I can just go right into Hydrapple, which should be able to win the game now. Especially since I can go for Tera Fire, which if that last one isn't Gyarados, looks very good here. Archaludon, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to go for Tera Fire here plus Helping Hand. This should be a great way to deal some immense damage to Archaludon. I could probably 2-hit KO it. And then meanwhile, this Earth Power looks like it will be good into really anything that my opponent can click here. I mean, the best thing I can click is probably like a Draco Meteor, but that really won't matter because Hydrapple will just be able to 2-hit KO. They could Tera, to be fair. I won't discount the fact they can. I can't imagine what Tera typing they would have, though, that would actually help them. The best one would probably be Stellar, but it still keeps that Earth Power weakness, which means that I'm just going to be able to deal a lot of damage to my opponent anyway. And meanwhile, their Draco Meteor is now no longer super effective, and if they go for Flare Blitz, now a resisted attack. If they go for Knockoff in tandem, then that would be kind of scary because I do lose my Assault Vest, but I don't really think that's what they're going to click. They'll go for Protect instead on Archaludon. Okay, fair play. Should still be fine though, honestly. I'm going to be able to get off some really good damage into either Pokemon on this team, to be honest. And if need be, I can always just go for a Follow Me on Indeedee just to ensure that I'll survive. I will lose Trick Room at that point, but I think that in any sort of 2v1, especially since this is not AV Archaludon, I should be fine. So we are going to go for, I'm actually going to go for Earth Power into Incineroar here. I think there's a good chance that my opponent proceeds to go for really, I don't know, I think they're going to probably try and stall through the Protect most likely, or the Trick Room. Or maybe they're going to go for some sort of like Helping Hand or like a Flare Blitz plus Draco. I'm not too sure. I think there's a lot of options I get though, but I'm going to go for Follow Me and draw them into Indeedee either way. Because I can't see Archaludon killing even if it is Stellar or even like Tera Dragon with Draco. Especially with my Psychic Seed boost, and if Incineroar is going to go for a knockoff here, I should be fine. They're going to go for Tera Fairy. That should be kind of decent, actually. It's not an offensive Tera, which means that I'm thankfully not really weakening my output. And they've now given Giga Drain even more of a reason to click, which should hopefully help with my sustain against Pokemon. Not only this, but they're not going to be boosting the damage that they will deal to Indeedee, which is really huge, because again, I should be able to out-handle anything that can deal. Actually, because of... Ooh, okay, maybe this will. Nope, it didn't. Okay, perfect. So yeah, at this point, honestly, I think I just go for the follow me again, let my Indeedee go down, and then I go for a Giga Drain just to gain back a little bit of health versus Incin. If they do kill Indeedee, so be it. I don't really mind, in all honesty, because it just allows me to get into Ursaluna, which the combination of Ursaluna and Hydrapple should be able to pick off the Archaludon very comfortably, since it can't really deal a lot to me anyway. Not only this, but we've now avoided giving this thing a stamina boost, which will be very important for the late game, because Ursaluna will be able to now get off a very hard-hitting attack into that Pokemon before it becomes a threat. Meanwhile, my opponent's Incineroar is going to go for a Parting Shot here. That will weaken my Hydrapple. I'm not really too concerned about it though, because it's not meant to be some really heavy breaker into this game, as it's instead just meant to be another Pokemon that my opponent has to struggle to KO. They've revealed Flash Cannon, Body Press, and Protect, so their last move is most likely Electro Shot or Draco, and either way that's really good for Ursaluna here. They can go for Body Press, sure, but I haven't boosted that damage either, and I can potentially just protect around this thing anyway. Unfortunately, I do think I need to actually attack Archaludon with both the Giga Drain here and the Headlong Rush, mostly because of the fact that I think there's a good chance that they go for a Body Press into my Hydrapple this turn, considering the fact that a Protect on Ursaluna seems very likely. So I want to take advantage of that. They're going to go for Draco, which is actually great. They don't even kill, which is huge for one. And not only that, but they've now weakened their special offense, which should hopefully help with just beating through this Archaludon very comfortably. Our special attack is -1, but it should be enough damage to where I can guarantee win with both my Hydrapple and my Ursaluna, as one of them will be able to pick this off in the following turn. The Giga Drain does look like it still does enough, thankfully. So yeah, my opponent has to pick which Pokemon they want to lose to, and either way I'm set. Because even with Archaludon now having +2 in defense, the Guts boosted Ursaluna should be able to hopefully take this out, as I can get a very free Facade now into that slot. Meanwhile, my opponent also now has to click Body Press to KO my Ursaluna, but the Giga Drain should still deal enough damage to pick off my opponent anyway. So what I'm going to proceed to do is I'm going to click Giga Drain plus Facade here, and I'm going to pick off my opponent's Archaludon. They're going to go for Protect, which is perfectly fine. I don't really see a reason to really click anything else besides Giga Drain plus Facade here, as it should be enough to take out this Pokemon very comfortably. If they do end up taking the hit, and that's a little unfortunate, but again, I can't see them taking the Facade boosted Guts hit, since we do have not only a stronger stab now to click, but we also have the attack boost thanks to Guts. If it doesn't kill, it doesn't actually, ooh, maybe that doesn't kill. I think I still need to go for the 2 attacks anyway, because my opponent has now, they've now gotten set up, and unfortunately, I think that means I need to try and go for my out, which is dealing damage. They're going to go for Body Press and the Hydrapple, that's perfectly fine. The Facade should still deal a lot of damage anyway, though, to my opponent, so it might be a close game, but I do think we could still pull it out. Archaludon is kind of crazy, though, and it has insane Phys Def with that +2, so we'll have to see. Ursaluna does manage to KO, though, that's perfect. Not even a crit, it just happens to kill. Okay, so I did have faith in the bear for the right reasons. Let's go. Alright, so we're 2-0 for the day. Honestly, really incredible. I'm going to try and get one more game in for you guys, so hopefully this next game will be just as good. Okay, while we're not taking on the best team for this final game, it's definitely a very fitting end to play off against the Hydrapple Mirror. Now this Sun team definitely has a lot of really good ways to outdamage my team for sure, but I do think I can still actually regain some nice offensive position, especially with the combination of Hatterene and Indeedee on lead. There's not really a Pokemon that I think that could lead next to Ninetales that would stop Tricker from going up, so this should be a very safe option, and with Hydrapple having Tera Fire, I can play a lot of 50-50s into my opponent here. I think the final mon definitely is either Ursaluna or Araquanid. I don't really want to bring my Torkoal, since despite the fact that it can still deal some good damage, both of the Paradox Pokemon on this team can really comfortably take hits from it. I feel like that both Ursaluna and Araquanid are just better picks here. Araquanid would provide me a really good water type sponge and just a generally good switch into the Walking Wake, while also being able to damage Incineroar really well, but I think since Sun's going to go up, I am going to go for the Ursaluna and play a little bit more aggressive. I think if they do get rid of my Trick Room, that could prove to bite me in the ass very quickly, but I just don't think it's going to happen, as even with the Sun up again, I don't think they stop Trick Room from going up. Good luck, have fun regardless though. I'm looking forward to seeing what my opponent can do in this matchup, as it's definitely going to be a bit concerning for sure. They're probably going to lead off with Ninetales. Yep, Ninetales and Incineroar. Okay. Definitely not what I was expecting, but it's still a very strong lead for them. Incineroar is a great way to Parting Shot out and just cycle in another Paradox Pokemon very slowly after scouting my lead, and it also gave them a Fake Out option if I didn't lead off with Side Spam here. However, because I did lead off with Side Spam here, I can actually get off a very comfortable Taunt with my Indeedee. Well, not Taunt, a Trigger with my Indeedee and not fear any sort of Taunt shenaniganry. Not only this, but Ninetales shouldn't be able to deal enough damage, and I can honestly just draw in both their attacks anyway into Indeedee to ensure the Trick Room goes up, and even if they go for a Flare Blitz, I'm still going to survive. So I know it's a pretty cyclical... So I know it's a very cyclical set of plays, but at the same time, this is just my best out. There's not really a better play to be making here, because while I can potentially, you know, try and go for a more offensive option on Indeedee like Dazzling Gleam, why bother when I can just go for Follow Me, draw in my opponent's Flare Blitz, and survive the turn without burning Tera on Hatterene? Because otherwise I'd have to burn a Tera Fire on Hatterene, which just isn't that great. It seems like they are trying to intentionally burn my Indeedee. I can't imagine why they make that play otherwise without, I guess, not knowing what Hatterene does. And they are going to go for a Parting Shot here, which actually opens up very greatly the Expanding Force turn on the following turn. Since even if they switch in Indeedee, that's fine. I only have to worry about one Pokemon attacking, and that's honestly not too big of a deal. So even if Incineroar does come back in, I'm still kind of set. They're going to bring in Hydrapple now. Now, Hydrapple is scary, and theirs is shiny, which means it's objectively stronger than mine is. It's just how shiny Pokemon work. And they even have Super Sweet Syrup, which my guess is they're probably going to go for either more Willow spamming or maybe even Hypnosis. Either way, not really too concerned because they're not Regenerator, thankfully, and even Sticky Hold would be a little bit scarier in my eyes. So I feel like we can confidently just go for an Expanding Force here plus a Helping Hand and deal immense damage to my opponent's Pokemon. So we're going to go for the Helping Hand plus Expanding Force combination. If Hydrapple does go for like a Fickle Beam into my Indeedee or maybe like a Giga Drain or a Leaf Storm in my Hatterene, that's kind of fine. I don't mind either taking a lot of damage this turn. Incineroar will come in over the Ninetales. That's also not really a huge concern because Hydrapple won't KO both my Pokemon or really even either of my Pokemon no matter what attack it clicks here. I think the best way it would have to damage me would be like a critical Fickle Beam into Indeedee, but it shouldn't really be a big deal anyway. That implies it survives the turn. I don't even think it will. Perfect, okay. Hydrapple is now cleared off the field. We've cleared the fraud, now we only have the real Hydrapple left in the game. Because Hydrapple is in the back, I do kind of want to win off of it. We've only had the one game, and otherwise I need to turn this video to Hatterene, which will make the commentary a little bit awkward, but I'll do it if I have to. If I have to do it, I'll do it. They're going to bring in Ninetales, that's perfectly fine. They've dropped my Evasion, which is kind of whatever. It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to go for Expanding Force, and I'm going to go for a Dazzling Gleam, just to get some chip on Incineroar. I don't really think I'm going to click Gleam into, well, with the Indeedee because of the Ninetales existing. I'd rather just damage the Ninetales and get off a comfortable hit instead of dealing like 20%. But at least some sort of chip with my Indeedee into Incineroar will be valuable for sure. So we're going to get off like an... I can't imagine the single target does less than 20. I know that Indeedee's not that strong, but... Wow, okay, so that actually did nothing. Oh, right, we're Parting Shot it. Never mind. That actually makes a lot of sense. Okay, well, Indeedee is going to go down, but not without enabling the fact that we can go into Hydrapple here and start claiming KOs. This is Hydrapple's time. Hydrapple will be able to win this game very easily. I'm curious about what my opponent's last Pokemon is. I'm assuming it's Gouging Fire. Yep, it is Gouging Fire. Okay, yeah. Gouging Fire offensively was really fucking hard to deal with in this team. But thankfully, though, my opponent has given me a situation where I can play around this very easily. My Tera Fire and Hydrapple will prove to be very deadly here. And just to ensure that I can get off a strong hit, I am going to go for a Protect this turn. Because I think that the position of Hatterene and Hydrapple will be scarier. And I kind of want to preserve that for one more turn. Meanwhile, I am going to go for an Earth Power into the Gouging Fire here. Actually, I'm going to go for it into the... I'm going to go for it into the Gouging Fire. Yeah, I want to get some damage off. I think Gouging Fire will most likely target my Hatterene. And then Incineroar really could target either. I feel like Hatterene, again, is the bigger threat to them because of just the fact that it's a Hatterene and Psychic Terrain. But maybe they do value Hydrapple, which in that case, I guess, good on my opponent for predicting that. But with Tera Fire, I'm assuming they're both clicking Sun Boosted hits, which means that I should be able to just take this hit significantly better. Gouging Fire will still have Photosynthesis to deal with those, so it's not completely out of the woods damage-wise, but it should be a lot more comfortable of an attack. The Tera Fire, especially on this, leads me to believe they are going to quick Flare Blitz, though. I mean, it just feels, or even Temper Flare. They just feel like the really clear-cut choices here. Also, that Tera Crown is so fucking cool on Gouging Fire. It looks menacing. It genuinely does. Burning Bulwark goes off. Okay. Thankfully, we didn't attack with a contact move, because that could have been scary if we had proc to burn here, but thankfully it will not matter. Instead, Incineroar will be going for an attack, though. I'm curious as to what. It's going to go for Parting Shot. Okay. So thankfully they went into Hatterene. I don't think... They might have been trying to force out Hatterene, in honesty, which if they were doing that, then that's totally fair. I am going to go for an Expanding Force here, and I'm going to go for an Earth Power. I want to take out the Gouging Fire very comfortably. That should be my best position here, in my opinion, as I can take out the Gouging Fire before it goes for a Flare Blitz or any sort of Dragon attack, really. which now is opened up because I did Scout for my Tera. So good on my opponent, honestly. It was a decent play to go for Burning Bulwark there. Very low drawback for them, especially since it completely walls out Expanding Force that turn. And if they get a double on this one, then they completely stop it before I lose my Trick Room. So unfortunately, they did not try for the Burning Bulwark. I think it would have been a better play for them. And because of the dual target, though, we are going to kill the Gouging Fire. So Hydrapple, after all, is carrying our game once again. Let's go, Hydrapple. And the best part is Incineroar cannot kill it. Incineroar could definitely deal a lot of damage to both my Hatterene and my Ursaluna, even probably with the Sun Boosted Flare Blitz. But you know what Pokemon doesn't take a lot from this? Hydrapple. As we can see here, that Drain Punch does nothing. I don't even think it's a 4 KO right there. Which is great because I can now use my Hatterene as a support Pokemon and just go for Earth Powers off of Hydrapple until we win the game, which should be in just a couple turns. We're gonna get this Trick Room up, and this Earth Power should deal some good damage. It also allows us to get off 2 Earth Powers in a row before my opponent can Drain Punch, meaning that if I get a special defense drop this turn, or even like it's just a high roll, or even if we just deal a lot of damage, they won't be able to recover it off. Meanwhile, right now their HP is full, so they don't get anything really beneficial from that Drain Punch. And yep, as we can see here, we deal over half, and now Hydrapple is going to be able to claim a kill against that Incineroar very comfortably. For the sake of letting Hydrapple claim a kill that it is very much earned, I'm going to go into Ursaluna here, because I think it's just funnier, and again, Hydrapple should get to claim its kill. Though, because I am making such a ballsy play, I'm going to let it click Draco Meteor. While I probably should have ran Fickle Beam, in all honesty, I do want to bank the game off of the accuracy, because it's a funnier way to end the video. So, if Hydrapple hits this Draco Meteor, it's earned the kill. If not, I'm disowning it forever. Let's go. Hydrapple got the kill. Perfect. Great way to end the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this Hydrapple showcase, and you saw why. I mean, this Pokemon can be decent. I think on a very hard Trick Room team, this thing actually has merit, and I don't even think it's the worst DLC Pokemon. That's Iron Boulder. And if you want to see why, we have a membership video that just went up a couple days ago that should go over why this Pokemon is the worst Pokemon to come out of the Indigo Disc DLC. Speaking of, consider becoming channel members. We're going to have once-a-month videos going over just whatever topics you guys want to vote on, as well as just, it's a nice way to support the channel. I'm going to try and bring back some streams soon, and it should be a good way to get some nice emotes if you guys want to use those as well. Our current channel members are Zeke, Mia, Rao Sakura, Obo, Johannes B, Endless Gadgets, Ultra Player, Incog M, and our bigger fan member, Vincent Wee. Thank you guys so much for your support on the channel. It greatly is appreciated. And with that said, I will see you guys hopefully tomorrow. I'm hoping tomorrow this time. I know I said that in the Gouging Fire video and it took like 3 weeks, but I'm hoping for tomorrow we'll have another upload. Until then, peace out, guys.